Hi, welcome to Saunders Sisterhood. I'm Carrie, and this is a YouTube channel for the single childless person. Our video today is the bumpy road to acceptance. Many of us, it's difficult to even contemplate even getting to acceptance. And sometimes we get to acceptance and then we take 3 steps back, it can feel like, depending on the different triggers that are occurring around us. This video today is to share a few thoughts that I have experienced and that I want you to remember as you're navigating acceptance of being childless, not by choice. The first thing is remember that having a bumpy road to acceptance is okay. That's not unusual. That doesn't mean it's not going to happen for you. Acceptance needs to be sustainable and it can't be rushed. In the therapy world, we kind of talk about the only way to get there is to go through. For many of us, it's extremely painful to think about really accepting that we are not going to have children. I've talked in some other videos about why that is. And some of the reason why that is we don't have a clear path about what it looks like to be happy, what it looks like to feel fulfilled, and what it looks like to have an enjoyable, meaningful, purposeful, and fun life without children. And knowing that you're having a lot of ups and downs just means that you're doing the work, you're gritting it through, and that acceptance is a process that cannot be rushed. Obviously, if you feel like you're getting too low or if you feel like you're really getting stuck in it, always consider seeing a therapist or a coach. And if you feel like you're struggling and having some scarier thoughts, make sure that you reach out to a therapist because they can help you in your journey. Number 2, the road to acceptance is going to have many trial runs. It's going to be a lot of starts and stops. You know, there's a lot of triggers that occur. There's a lot of new triggers that occur. A lot of women that I talk to, they feel like they've gotten to a groove with acceptance, and then they get to a certain age where their friends are starting to become grandmothers, or they hit menopause, and they have a lot of re-triggering things that occur at that time. It's okay to have trial runs. It's okay to have different seasons when you're in acceptance and different seasons where you feel like you're having to actively work on your acceptance more. That's all normal. And that's how it is for many, many, many different types of grief. And you aren't alone in that. Number 3, you get to be pissed. Okay? You get to be pissed. You get to be angry. You get to be resentful. A lot of times we will gaslight our anger, or we'll have others who are trying to help us feel better kind of talk about, well, at least you have this, or think of all the good things that you have. Yes, those things are important. And it's equally important to recognize the feelings that you're feeling, honor those, journal about those, meditate on those, talk about those with people who you trust, who you feel understand, accept, and validate. And then you can start to hang out a little bit and the feelings of gratitude or thankfulness for what you do have. But it's going to be very hard to do that if you gaslight yourself on your anger or being pissed or rageful. Remember, those are healthy feelings to have as well, and justified. You are justified in being pissed when you aren't going to have children, when that's something that you wanted. Again, the difficulty in that is when you get stuck in it, and that's where support, a therapist or coach, can help you out. Number 4, when that little voice of acceptance starts to creep into your thoughts, I want you to notice it. I want you to honor it. And when you're ready, maybe even just jot it down or write it down. I think sometimes we're in the depths of grief. When we start to have that little voice of acceptance, we sometimes want to poo-poo that away. We sometimes will tell ourselves that it's betraying our feelings, betraying the difficulty or the trauma that we're experiencing, betraying the fact that we wanted kids. And Many of us will start to get to acceptance piece by piece or little by little. So when you notice that, instead of blocking those out or shoving those away, just take a moment to acknowledge that you've had that thought. And that's an okay thought to have as well. It's okay to get to acceptance. If you think about it, when you notice it, like I said, just write it down in a journal or in a Google Doc. Just write down what those initial thoughts are. Number 5, as you start to move further down on this path and you start to have more thoughts that creep in that give you the impression you're starting to move toward acceptance, those thoughts that you wrote down, they can then be the foundation that you use to help shift your mindset to where you will have longer periods of acceptance. You have this list down, and you can then use those thoughts to start to replace some of those difficult thoughts that you have. Again, not talking about gaslighting yourself, because I want you to honor those thoughts initially. And in order to help us continue to move on our path, continue to move through our journey, in order to get to that meaningful, purposeful life that you can have, even though you're childless, not by choice, we do need to start to integrate some thoughts into our world that allow us to move forward. And those thoughts that you wrote down can be the beginnings of that, the sprinkle of that. So remember, it's okay to have a bumpy path to acceptance. It doesn't mean you're not working hard enough. It doesn't mean that you're not accepting the reality. No matter what those around you are telling you, you get to have a bumpy path to acceptance. And it cannot be rushed. This is a real trauma and a real grief for a real loss. Number 2, you're going to have many trial runs. You're going to have periods of acceptance that feel longer, and then you're going to have periods of acceptance that feel shorter. You're going to have periods of acceptance that then you're going to, a different trigger will occur, and you may need to go through your process again. Just because you're in acceptance in a different season of life doesn't mean that you can never feel grief or anger or need extra support again in the future. When people tell you, oh, I thought you were over that, that's a minimizing statement that you then need to come into your community and come into your supports like Saunders Sisterhood and let us be there to help support you around that. Number 3, you get to be pissed. Number 4, when that little voice starts to put in some statements of acceptance into your head, just notice it. And when you're ready, write it down. Number 5, when you feel a little bit further down the road again, you can pull out that list and you can use those thoughts in order to help build the foundation to change your mindset and to shift your mindset into longer periods of acceptance. This is hard. You will go 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, or 3 steps forward, 1 step back. This is about shifting and making sure that as you're shifting through different seasons of acceptance, remember, having a community around you is important. Community is healing. Consider joining Saunders Sisterhood in order to be around those who can help you feel seen, heard, and understood. Check back with Saunders Sisterhood for more videos that are geared toward the single and childless person.